going to ask each one of the panelists a follow-up question, and then we're going to open up the floor to all of you guys to ask questions. So there's going to be a roving mic, and we'll take questions in groups of 3, and then we'll come back to the panel. So I'm going to, I guess, go in order again, Sean, since we just heard from you. So my question for Andrea is, your Goodfill problem identified a problem in the city of New York, actually 2 problems. One is the problem of food waste, but also the problem of hunger security that many people living in New York face. And you use the medium of design to solve it. So what role do you feel that design has in making our world and our communities more sustainable?
Okay, so my design work is about understanding our human behaviors and how our experiences and interactions could be better for us and our societies, but also how those experiences are affected by the big scale problems. And with Goodfill, for example, we started with the idea about, we were prompted by the idea about elastic systems, how systems could be more adaptive and resilient. And we visited Hunts Point, and there we went to the New York City Food Bank, and then also we joined a group of freegans. And by doing this, we learned about the issues that are related to food safety here in New York. And I think that design has a big important role in these big scale problems, because as a designer, you're able to identify these problems and to frame those problems, and problems that maybe we didn't see before, or problems that maybe we are seeing in a different way by making the connection of our everyday experiences with the big scale problems. So I think that's my biggest role as a designer, like being able to frame those problems and to propose new solutions to tackle them.
Great, thank you. So Ovi and I met when we were both panelists on a discussion at the New York City Comic-Con this year. And I was really struck by one thing that you said, and you mentioned it a little bit in the presentation today, is that when you talk to communities, particularly underserved communities that are dealing with the pressures of life, like how am I going to pay my rent next month, or some real challenges that people face in their everyday life, it's hard for them to see issues of climate change as their immediate problems. So what are the things that you say that really kind of, where you see a light bulb go on when you're talking to these types of communities, for them to understand the issues that you're talking about are their issues right now, right at that minute?
Exactly. No, that's a big reason why my nonprofit got started, and a big reason why my wife, who was my foundation director at the time, we just felt like this is something that we have to do, because we felt that, actually, we didn't feel, it was the truth that the people who care the least about the environment are the ones affected the most by it. Those who are underserved communities, usually people of color, who think that it is just hugging trees and polar bears and butterflies, like, that's not my thing, I'm good. They're the people who have the landfills in their neighborhood, the coal plants in their neighborhood. They have higher rates of asthma. They have diseases they can't pronounce or spell. They have, Flint, Michigan in their backyard. They have BP oil spill in their backyard. They're dealing with things that they don't know about, but they just feel like it's an inconvenience. It's like, I'm not worried about the environmental stuff when it's affecting them. And this whole mindset change to fix the problem, it can't be just a rich issue, just a white issue, or just, an issue of those who are enlightened enough to know about it. It has to be everyone's issue. Everyone has to be a part of this. Everyone has to be on board. Everyone has to have that culture, that mindset change. And the way we do it is that we just educate them. Both my parents are Nigerian, and in talking to Shannon today, I knew things were bad in Nigeria, but Nigeria has some of the worst air quality in the world. And they don't know it. The Nigerian consulate is around the corner, and we were over there talking to them about, some of the things we want to help fix, and a lot of them just were unaware of what's going on. The same way that there are kids in America, kids here in New York, kids in Atlanta, who just don't know why they should care. Everyone wants to care. These parents want to care. These kids want a better life for themselves, but they don't know why they should want to. So we make it fun, we make it easy. We have environmental football camps. Instead of just football camps and maybe life skills, we do football camps and environmental education. We have a program called Recycle on the Run, where you're recycling while you're running. It's like an American Ninja Warrior with an environmental brain teaser. So you're doing football drills, feet through tires, jumping up over this, climbing underneath that, and you'll see maybe trash on the ground. But you don't want trash on the ground, you gotta put it somewhere. So you have paper, plastic, non-recyclable, recyclable styrofoam, and you have recycling bins. And you have volunteers there telling them, that's recyclable, that's not recyclable, that's paper. You put in the right thing, look under the cap, and just different things that we teach them, they actually put it into action during a relay, Recycle on the Run relay. So they're breathing hard, they're having fun, they're trying to win, and it's something where they learn without knowing they're learning, and that's what you want out of people. We also have a Green Speaker Series where kids grow up and they want to be a fireman, a doctor, a football player, a rapper, a singer, or whatever, because they see it on TV, they're around it. But how many times do you have a sustainability director come and speak to kids and tell them, like, this is a real job, this is what I get paid for, this is something that helps people, I do well and do good, this is the prerequisites for me to get here. You don't have people who have environmental jobs or sustainability jobs do a lot of in-house school speaking. So our Green Speaker Series allows kids to have just access to energy auditors, just different type of people, or a guy who runs a recycling plant that they usually have no contact with. So they get excited, that makes them say, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be this. All things that can help our planet. So education is the key thing, but we use sports as a catalyst to promote sustainability.
Thank you. That's really excellent. Melissa, when we asked you to join our panel, we learned about your thesis that you had mentioned on the share economy and how it relates to being more sustainable, but is also an economic issue. So I'm wondering if you could share a bit more about that research and some of the things that you discovered that you found really interesting, and how you've been able to now use that in your professional life.
So I did my research, as I said, in 2010 to 2012. A lot has changed in the field. So when I did my research, I was mainly examining the whole concept of renting, sharing, swapping stuff. And if you look in the US, for example, half of all households in America have a drill. But an average drill is only used between 9 to 13 minutes of its lifetime. So does it really make sense for everyone to have a drill? Or can we think a little smarter and use technology to maybe rent a drill? Or maybe there's a shared toolbox on every street. So my thesis looked at different sharing economy companies that allowed for the renting, sharing of stuff. And it's quite incredible, like the amount you can save through your individual actions of sharing something or renting something. You may think, well, I'm just one person, but the implications of what you can do is huge if everybody takes an action, like what other panelists have said before. So if you think about your wardrobe, well, a third of American women's wardrobes, a third of the clothes are never worn before, and that's really wasteful. So there are really interesting companies now, like Poshmark, where you can rent from other people, rent the runway, where you can rent clothes or sell or swap clothes that are changing consumption, and that's what my thesis looked at. It looked at different ways that people are swapping things, exchanging things, and whether it leads to a more sustainable effect. So, hope that answers your question. But to all of you in this room, there are a lot of big challenges and a lot of big problems out there. I've been in New York for 5 years, and it's really amazing to meet young people who are starting businesses, who are entrepreneurs, who are attempting to tackle these challenges. And they're being really creative. So I met someone, for example, he's the founder of someone called Play, P-L-E-Y, and he was spending thousands of dollars of money on his kids' Lego. So he started a company where parents can rent Lego. So I think it's something like $20 a month, or maybe even cheaper, but every month you get a new Lego set. But then that Lego set is sent back and cleaned and given to another family to rent. And these concepts and these ideas are really innovative. So I really encourage all of you, and you're in such a great city where there's other entrepreneurs and other people with great ideas, to just see some of the problems that are out there and see what you can do about it.
Thank you. And for anyone that knows me, I like to theme dress. So this is actually vintage. It's early 1990s. I don't think the designer exists anymore, but since the 90s are back, I figured I would bring out my reused dress for this panel. I also wanted to say that I've looked at some of the tips that Lauren gives on her blog, and I've just ordered a set of camping utensils so that I can continue to reuse them, because people that live in New York City, I mean, we're always running out. I go to the Amish market and get a salad almost every day. And so how can I do a little thing, which is reuse the silverware that I have. And one day I think maybe I'll start bringing a bowl in there and see how they react to it. I'm hoping I might be able to convince them. But anyway, on your zero waste lifestyle, I really like that you give these tips. And I'm wondering, what were some of the easiest changes that you found, and what were some of the hardest?
So this is a question that I get asked a lot, and honestly the hardest thing is answering this question, because everything about living a zero waste lifestyle is super easy. Like, at a really zoomed out level, like, do you guys think, I'm sure if you heard zero waste for the first time, you're like, this is BS, like this girl's totally lying, there's no way that she can actually live this way. But when you break it down, the steps are as simple as saying no to single-use plastic forks and bringing your own, saying no to things like paper towels and using washable cloth napkins, saying no to buying new clothing and buying secondhand clothing, or just buying less and buying more thoughtfully. These steps are not hard. They're just things that you have to be conscious of, and once you build them into your routine, it's really simple to live the lifestyle that I live. I've been doing it for 4 years. I'm an average person. I'm super lazy, and if this was a hard lifestyle to live, I wouldn't be living it. But on top of that, things that I've learned from living this lifestyle is that besides caring about the environment, I've saved so much money through living this lifestyle. So doing things that are better for the environment also impact the bottom line. And for me, I've saved on food alone $20,000 over the past 4 years, just on food. And so by making decisions that do have a positive impact on the environment, we can also help ourselves financially, as well as improve our overall health. Because living this lifestyle, I've started eating seasonal, local, organic food, also lowered the amount of money I spend on food, and I feel a lot better. So regardless of whether or not you care about the environment, I think we can all agree that we would want to feel better and save a little bit of money. So it's just propagating that narrative and dispelling the narrative that sustainable is like an upper class white person thing, and propagating the narrative that to live sustainably, you can also save money and feel better. But I think the hardest two things about this lifestyle are doing exactly that, dispelling these preconceived narratives that this is a hard lifestyle to live, that you have to be a certain kind of person or a certain demographic to be sustainable. I don't think anyone here looks like they live in a tree, but we all care about sustainability, right? Like, someone will see me on the street and I'll tell them about what I do or whatever, and they'll be like, I had no idea that you cared about sustainability. You look like just a regular person. And I'm like, okay, well, why do I have to look like a certain person to care about the environment? Why do we have to be a certain archetype of a person to care about the environment that we all need to survive? So that's the first hardest thing. And the second hardest thing, I think, is my own brain. Like, getting past the idea of looking weird, of going into the Amish market and buying a salad in a bowl. But honestly, I don't care, right? Because if someone looks at me like I'm weird by doing something that's inherently more sustainable, it means that they've never seen what I'm doing, and I'm teaching them something that they've never seen before. Which means that I'm helping them see that the world that we live in and the world that they know as being normal isn't the only world that we have to live in, and that we have a choice. So every opportunity that I have to have someone look at me like I'm crazy is, to me, the best opportunity and the best parts of my day, because it means I'm showing someone something that they've never seen before. So the hardest thing for me was just getting past that and realizing that I don't have to be like everyone else. And maybe, if everyone else was doing things that aligned with their values more, like living
a zero waste lifestyle or doing things that in their everyday life as individuals impact their environmental impact, maybe we'd all feel a little bit better and be a little less self-conscious about making positive change.
Thank you. So my commitment that I'm going to post to our Instagram is that I'm going to bring my bowl into the Amish market for my salad, see how it goes, and hopefully I will start a movement, because there's always a line out the door at that place for their salads, and see if I start to get other people to do it, or
You're
at
a
least
rock
ask me a
star.
question.
Badass.
Lastly, Sean, so you're both the CEO of PCI Media Impact, and you're also the co-founder of Comics Uniting Nations. And it's all about effective messaging to young people to inspire positive behavior change. And we've heard a lot already about this messaging, but what are some of the important lessons that you've learned, especially because you work in so many different countries and contexts with different cultures, about using comics or other, education, entertainment materials to reach people, to get them to understand that it is about them?
The first thing I would stress is the importance of role models. And I think we see right up here the power of a role model and the stories they tell and the learning you can get from a role model. We live in a very complex world. And so we used to talk about behavior change. What behavior can you do, as if it was singular. But in fact, these days, to make a difference, it's huge suites of behaviors. What do you shop? What do you drive? Do you talk to your daughter about sex? Do you think about how you buy gas, how you pay your electricity? It's so complicated that we can no longer think about a single message at a time. What's beautiful about a role model is you can extrapolate. You can ask yourself, well, what would they do? What would Ugly Betty do now? To use a figure we most know. And we can project that a deeper suite of behaviors. And I think entertainment gives us that opportunity to role model different ways of looking at the world. Second one is meet your audience where they are, not where you want them to be. It's really easy to think that people are like us and they're like you. None of us are in fact the same. And it's much more powerful to just meet them where they really are. And that means know your audience, know your audience, know your audience. Keep digging deeper, keep digging deeper. For me, the most powerful one has been in dealing with youth, is not to underestimate the power of youth. We produce radio dramas, TV dramas around the world. Some of the best dramas we have produced were produced by youth, by teenagers. One of my favorite is a Guatemalan radio drama that's in its 4th season. It's on HIV/AIDS. It's one of the, Guatemala has the fastest growing HIV/AIDS rates in Latin America for teenagers. And a group of teenagers got together and said, we can do something about this. They found a mentor, they learned how to produce drama. 4 seasons later of Learn Trousseau, they are champions in their communities and they're making it work. There's a famous African quote that actually sits in the front of Al Gore's book. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think it really speaks to the fact that we need to collaborate. Ovi is producing a wonderful comic. His heart is there, his power is there, his creativity is there. But when we partner up with UNICEF and the world's largest lesson, we can get that energy and that vision in front of 120 different ministries of education and 500 million kids. Ovi can't do that alone. UNICEF can't produce everything. Each of you have something, if not many things, to give. Finding the right group of people, the right partners to give it to and with, can turn up the volume on your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. How about another round of applause?